want to talk about an overrated film, this is it. It's not even as good as its sequel.
That could be any movie.
Is it? Ooh.
How does this have a higher rating than Drunken Master 2? And that's one of the best ever filmed.
Because that movie's ancient.
Yeah, but that movie is really good.
It is good. It's also old is the problem.
The people rating this movie high have never even seen another martial arts film. What propaganda? What garbage?
The youth were a mistake.
Big martial arts paid for this.
That was a 1-star review on IMDb. You didn't point at me.
I did just then.
No, yeah, but you were late. Hello.
Try that again.
No, we're good. It's all in.
It's in there. It's in the can.
Editor's taking a nap for this one.
No, he didn't point at me. I didn't know when I was unmuted.
Start talking.
The secret is in my heart. You're always unmuted, Andrew. Okay.
Hello, we are Spoilers Intended, the podcast about series and films. I'm your host, Andrew, joined as always by Ryan.
I point sometimes, and I'm here.
And Steven.
I'll never point at you.
Please don't.
That's a tough thing to promise, Steven.
This week, we are discussing 2008's martial arts epic Ip Man, starring Donnie Yen.
I always want to call it Ip Man or
Ip Man.
Ip Man. I saw one person referred to it as IP Man. I'm like, that's not it at all.
Intellectual property.
That ain't it at all, guy.
You better watch out. The
Ip
DC is going to jump in here and copyright that.
Yeah.
TMTM Man.
So here is the quick synopsis for Ip Man.
Yep.
In 1930s China, the town of Foshan is the legendary hub of Kung Fu martial arts. Ip Man is an accomplished Grand Master of Wing Chun Kung Fu, but chooses to keep a low profile and doesn't take any students. Challenge after brutal challenge sees this town realize that Ip Man is unstoppable. After the Japanese invasion, the town descends into chaos and struggle, and the town descends into chaos. It's a really weird...
Yeah, it happens sometimes.
The town descends into chaos and struggles to survive. The town itself, not everyone.
Yeah, everyone but Ip Man struggles to survive.
Ip Man rises up to challenge General Miura and the Japanese army.
Yeah.
So
that's a heck of a synopsis.
It's a lot.
Keep going.
Yeah, so Ip Man, played by Donnie Yen, basically is master arts or martial arts master, and he kind of very benevolent character, but he kind of rises up to the challenge, I guess, of trying to defend his people, defend their honor, and also beat up some people along the way.
It's the reluctant hero thing of I've learned martial arts. I'm not going to use my powers to just beat a bunch of people up. Whatever, and then circumstances drag him into a situation where he has no choice but to deal with it with his fists and feet,
which he does quite a bit, and it's pretty fantastic.
It is fantastic.
So this came out in 2008, and
it feels like it would be a little older than that, but that I guess
it does feel older now. But I guess I've watched this thing so much at this point.
I guess I was out of college when I saw it, so that's where my head is.
So we didn't actually watch this for the first time until, maybe 2018.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Really? Dang.
It just kind of slipped by, and it just never really kind of popped up for us. And then I think I watched a YouTube video of one of his fights. I'm like, ooh, yeah, that's pretty cool.
I think I rented it when it was available to rent. As soon as it came out, probably late 08, early 09, whenever that was.
Yeah.
That's that's crazy. You basically didn't watch this film until it already had 2 sequels out.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so it was great though, because then we got to watch.
2019.
Yeah, because then we got to watch all the other 2 just back to back to back.
So I've never seen 3 or 4. I've only seen 1 and 2.
Oh, interesting. 3's really good.
You should watch. It's worth watching all 4. If I'm honest.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of looking at some info on the film too. So it never was released in North America or Europe.
No,
or most of Europe.
Yeah, so that's the thing. There's really no box office numbers that I can really give
because it didn't come out.
So it grossed 22 million worldwide.
Yeah, so it's really,
whatever.
Yeah,
it's hard to discuss a real number there. Supposedly its budget was just under 12 million US.
Okay.
And I think most people's exposure to it, at least in North America, Netflix picked it up somewhere around the time the second one came out, like 2010, 2012 ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I definitely think the second one's the best one.
I think so. That was funny. In the one-star review, I was like, "Man, that guy's kind of right on that one. I don't like agreeing
Am I
with
part
these
of the problem? Am I a monster? I'm agreeing with the 1 star.
The second one is fantastic.
No, the second one's very, very good. And this one's still really good.
Quite good.
Yeah.
But I think the second one, they kind of like got like the whole formula down of what they wanted to do with it.
Right.
Because this is a biopic at the end of the day. However,
We're stretching the term there on that one.
So hold on, I have a blurb.
Oh, yeah.
So what about this movie was true?
Yeah, I looked this up too. Keep going.
Ip Man was a real person.
Yep.
Ip Man is credited with being the first person to publicly teach Wing Chun.
He's considered basically the modern grandfather of Wing Chun.
Yes. Ip Man was Bruce Lee's master.
Yes.
That's where it stops.
Yeah.
He was a person. He practiced Wing Chun, and he did teach Bruce Lee.
Well, because like the first time I saw this back in, I guess, 08, 09, whenever it was, I would just like, I knew it was probably embellished a bit, but I took it at face value of like, a lot of this really happened.
No,
you know?
not at all.
And so upon this viewing is the first time I've taken the time to go like, I wonder how much of this actually is accurate. I found that same thing where it's like, there's 3 things that are true. This was his name. He did this.
It's interesting that was y'all's approach. Whereas my approach was, I was like, well, okay, I know, because...
Well, I knew going into it, even back in like 2018, that pretty much all of it was fabricated.
This is not quite RRR levels of embellishment, but at the same time, it's not that far from it either.
He's very much a superhero.
Yes, watching this film now, after seeing something like RRR, watching it and being like, boy, these feel... Like, we don't have the buddy-buddy story, but these feel very similar in a lot of ways.
But like some of the stuff he does in this movie feels like the kind of thing that you would hear in like a wartime story, and it would get blown out of proportion.
Legend.
Yeah, it would like this one nugget is actually true, but they just expanded it.
So Ip Man in real life was actually very like not mystified, but he did kind of reach legendary status of a martial arts master,
right?
Because he was very reserved about his personal life.
Yeah.
And like obviously like there are like he did live in Foshan, and then he did move to Hong Kong and start up his own, like martial arts school. And then he did teach Bruce Lee and that kind of stuff. But like those are really just the spark notes. Everything else kind of in between is just very like,
Yeah.
Well, and now it is worth qualifying this in the sense that, like, did Japan occupy China during World War II? Yes, parts of it. Was it brutal? Absolutely.
Now, I will say from what I've heard or read, the way that the Japanese oppressed the Chinese during the occupation was pretty realistic.
Oh, like the depiction of it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was a very brutal occupation. I have to say, watching this and then also kind of comparing it both to kind of what I already knew about Ip Man, and then just actually going and looking up other things, because it's like, well, this is very propaganda movie.
Oh yes,
like my goodness.
I don't remember it being that like upon this viewing. I was like, man, this is kind of leaning into the Chinese propaganda a little bit, like more than I remembered.
Yes.
I remembered it being like.
It's very, obviously very pro-Chinese because he's the hero, that kind of thing.
Well, and when we cross the spoiler threshold, I want to get back into that a little bit.
I do have quite a bit of stuff
because I really wanted to get into the weeds on that. I wasn't sure if y'all were open to it or not.
That does unfortunately deal with plot elements that we cannot speak about yet.
Yeah, so let's talk about
let's focus on where we are.
What did you guys think? I mean, because I've seen this movie a couple times now since I first watched it, and I think it's great. The fights are pretty fantastic in it. Donnie Yen is really good.
He's a great martial artist, great actor. He's almost a dead ringer for what Ip Man actually looks like based on photos. It's a little uncanny.
So he was actually slated to play Ip Man in another biopic possible like years and years ago.
Yeah.
Before this really got greenlit, and then they're like, oh well, he's still the guy.
He's still the guy.
and he actually learned and practiced Wing Chun for like almost a whole year to do it for the film. Yeah. Because he's really good at a bunch of other martial arts, but this one was one that he hadn't really touched on until he was slated to
this
be
movie.
Yeah.
Which is interesting given not to get into the weeds on this either, but Bruce Lee's influence on martial arts in the modern era because
was Wing Chun.
Jeet Kune Do.
Jeet Kune Do, yeah.
But Jeet Kune Do incorporates a lot of Wing Chun.
Chun,
There's a lot of elements in there, so it's surprising that which presumably Donnie Yen did like traditional kung fu and so like that, so it probably avoided some of that.
Yeah,
but it is interesting in 2023 or this era beyond Bruce Lee that it avoids any influence of Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah, and I think when I first watched this movie back in the day, I was like, this is a very good martial arts film. Like it had that at the time at least. You think 2008, like it had the twist of it's actually a decent period drama, like a historical.
It's got some war drama.
It does
going.
have some meat to it just on the drama side, and it's not just like, oh, it's a martial arts film.
Well, right, because a lot of the movies that were coming out at the time, and this is, post Crouching Tiger, post a lot of Jackie Chan stuff, was just, here's a simple setup fight. The stakes are very low.
It's not set in any kind of historical thing. It's just Jackie Chan moved to a new place,
right?
And there is a comical misunderstanding, and now he has to fight people.
Now he has to murder people.
Now everyone's trying to attack him.
He has to fight people using milk bottles and cardboard boxes, right?
Yes. Right.
Like that's just it's like and scene. We're gonna make $1 million.
Instinctively, I started taking money out of my pocket.
You're already reaching for your wallet.
Steven's just talking about Rumble in the Bronx, but that's okay.
I am.
I love it.
In fact, I did just use Rumble in the Bronx for that.
I remember the first time I saw it being like, oh, cool. Like there's
some like story behind this.
There's some story behind this, and it still has there are some moments that are a little almost over dramatic
or a little slow.
It slows down and the music picks up and you're like, well, come on guys.
It's definitely a Chinese drama.
Yeah, I was gonna say that there's a lot of Chinese drama movies. If you ever watched any like Wong Kar-wai films or anything like that, then
they'll slow the footage down and stare at the woman's face, and bug,
oh gosh. And I love Wong Kar-wai, but it's like it is a specific type.
It is. It's very
film.
You gotta be in the mood for that.
And so I could see some Western, people who aren't used to like that kind of stuff, seeing it and thinking it's cheesy or being like, well,
because it's more like theater.
It is. It's a lot more like Chinese opera, yeah.
Well, and it does make sense, too, especially for the fight scenes, because Sammo Hung did the action directing for this.
And he's great at that.
Yeah, and this is definitely a fantastic exposition of his, or exhibition, excuse me, of his, one, style, and then also how he shoots a lot of his fight scenes.
Right, the framing, the blocking, it's just got all the hallmarks of like a good, well-shot, well-edited
it is interesting a little bit because it's a more modern film, obviously.
Yeah.
But it definitely has a bit more of a Western editing to it.
A little bit, yeah.
Where we have some kind of quick cut, snappy, closer angles in these fights. I don't think it feels as bad, mostly because I'm watching Donnie Yen. I know whoever he's opposite, these people can actually fight.
Yes.
So we're not hiding punches. We're just trying to make them move faster than is actually possible. Especially for like the initial confrontation in the film.
So I think too some of the editing choices and maybe the filmmaking choices are more like indicative of like 2008.
Now there are some early aughts choices here, especially with some color grading going on.
There is some color grading going on,
which I don't hate it because there's
because it is very dramatic.
A tonal shift in the movie, and then they kick it in, and it was like.
Boy, everything is desaturated.
I don't remember it being this desaturated.
Times are sad.
I'm kind of digging it, but also, my God.
Well, and that's kind of indicative of like the Chinese like style film.
Well, it's
everything's
soap opera
desaturated.
Thing.
Everything is now sad.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's a pretty great film and definitely worth watching if you've never seen it before or you like any kind of like martial arts films or whatever. If you haven't seen it, definitely give this one a watch, I think.
And I got to say, as of the time of this recording, so the whole Ip Man catalog, all 4 films, at one point was on Netflix.
They were on HBO for a while.
But they moved off of Netflix in July.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is unfortunate for us because in order to watch this, the easiest way to watch it, the best way to currently watch it is on the Roku channel.
Yeah.
Free with ads.
Yeah.
But it's pretty good. Amazon Prime's option of
do not watch the freebie
with
one.
ads. Do not watch that. The subtitling is terrible.
So what's bad about it? I heard you talking about
they're delayed by like 2 seconds.
It's
like they talk and then like 2 seconds later the subtitle pops up.
So when there's a conversation, especially at the start, where it's just like
2 or 3 people
talking and Master Liu or whoever talking, it's almost impossible to know who actually said what.
Oh,
because
wow!
It delays out so far that like, I've seen this film half a dozen, maybe double-digit numbers of times.
Yeah.
And I was having moments where I was like, who said what now?
Who said what now? Mm-hmm. Well,
and
like
the
Roku version, I'm pretty sure the subtitles are baked into the video because when the buffer would go down, the subtitles would pixelate. So it's not like they're being generated on top of the video, like closed captioning. It's like happening. It's in the video. Yeah.
Well, also,
so maybe that's why they were like caught up.
And this might be part of that issue as well. Lando was just trying to lay on your bag, and he couldn't.
Hey, it happens.
He wanted the bag.
He did want the bag. But Freevee, when they were getting ready for an ad, the 15 to 20 second run up to an ad, they just wouldn't do closed captioning. So there'd be conversations, and I'd be like, am I not supposed to understand this because it's Japanese versus Chinese? I'm like, no, I know what that guy says. And then he'd be like, here's an ad. Like, oh, well, we'll see what the next one. Yeah, same problem. All right, we're ditching this. We're going to the Roku channel.
Well, so the other problem is too. So we tried watching the Freevee version first. It was terrible. I gave up after like 2 minutes.
Right.
And then I was like, fine, we'll watch it on YouTube. The problem with YouTube's version is that the audio for the movie's too low, and their ads are not normalized on volume, so we almost blew out our speakers when it was a Panera Bread ad.
But the subtitles were fine.
Well, the subtitles were fine.
It was just the audio was
so then we moved over to the Roku channel, and that was fine. Yeah, they still weren't completely normalized for ad volume, but that's when I just sat there with my finger on the mute button, just ready for it.
So I just started on the Roku channel because I assumed
started on the Roku channel.
Well, just because I assumed I've watched some stuff on there before, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, we did the weird mockumentary was on Roku.
Oh yeah,
weird.
Weird. I was like, what weird? Oh,
weird.
It's called Weird.
It's called
the Weird Al Yankovic story. Weird.
Yeah.
Yes. But when the ad break hit on one time, I got up, went into the kitchen, got something to eat, like a snack, poured a drink, came back. Ads were still going, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, you got like 4 or 5 ads in a row.
The ad break is like 90 to 120 seconds.
It was more than that, I think.
Woo! Although I will say, I may have lucked out. I was telling Andrew about this. I got the initial ads because I watched 30 minutes on. I can't do this, and I moved over to Roku, and I watched the initial ads when I jump in. Right, I don't remember there being another ad break, so I don't know if Roku just like forgot or what.
Sometimes,
yeah.
Well, because I think for me, one time there was like a dot at the bottom that tells you when the ad's about to hit.
It should, yeah.
And it just rolled right past
it. Just went right
and I was
by.
like, is the government watching? I'm not going to say anything if nobody else is.
I didn't pay my dues.
Oh, no. Are you tired of punching and kicking and fighting your way through bad content?
Oh, no.
Well, then you need to go to spoilersintendedpodcast.com. Nothing but good content awaits. And we will train you in the ways of good movie
website food
and television show reviews.
Well, so we also have a Discord that you can join.
There's lots of links on there too. We'll train you in that. How to click on links. One of them takes you to our Discord. Andrew, what's that all about?
Well, so we have a whole bunch of fun channels where you can like talk about what you're eating this week, or
show me your pets.
Show me your pets. We like to see furry friends. But the other thing is too is that you also get a bunch of great discussion. We have spoiler channels for like new stuff that's coming out,
ongoing shows,
ongoing shows, what you're watching, that kind of stuff. Totally a great time, completely free. Just join us and we will have a good time.
Yeah.
We also on the website have links to our socials. We have 2, count them 2.
1, 2.
Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
If you want to know what's coming up here in the next weeks, or if you want to know where to watch, if you want to follow us on socials, you will get that information from us. And hey, maybe have another chance to interact and make some commentary on there as well.
Yeah.
So can we just like listen to this the whole time that we're doing the rest of
it? Just keep it going.
It's such a good theme.
And they're like, how many right strikes can we give one podcast? I don't know.
China just comes here and is like, we need all of your money. I don't understand. What do you mean?
What do you mean?
All right, so we are past the spoiler wall. Spoilers all the time. We're going to do a roundtable discussion of just kind of what our general thoughts were for the thing. But before we start, I have some trivia. So the second part of that list that I had of
things that were true.
What was true? Ip Man was a real person. He was the first person to publicly teach Wing Chun, and he also taught Bruce Lee. That's it. That's where it stopped. What is false about the Ip Man movie? Everything else, but the 3 main things is he was never shot. He never fought a Japanese general, and he never fought 10 Japanese karate black belts.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
the
doesn't
thing.
even begin to go into.
No, I know. Like those are like the big like plot points.
Right. But that to me, like the 10 black belt thing, that felt like the kind of thing that like could have maybe happened, like maybe before the war.
Like, oh man,
or
like a demonstration.
Like a demonstration, and then someone like over the years conflated it, and like that, to me, I was like,
it's a war story.
Maybe that's what happened,
The other big thing is that which they never mention in the movie. It could still be the thing, but while he was in Foshan, he was a policeman.
Oh, okay.
That was his actual profession.
Interesting.
So
he was the guy that was like,
so that was where I was going to get into kind of maybe some of the propaganda aspects of this.
Lay it on us.
So in Foshan, right? So
Yeah.
he was a policeman for the nationalist government. That is not the Communist Party.
Yes.
That is actually the government that existed prior to World War II, et cetera.
Gotcha.
So there was a split.
Well, yeah, because so basically one of the big reasons why Japan invaded China at this time is that like there really wasn't like enough of a centralized government.
Unified. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
you
it was
basically had
very fractured.
You had two competing governments essentially.
Right. Okay.
So.
Was it based off like geographically, like the west side?
I
was
don't
one,
know
or
about
was
geographic, but it was
scattered out?
It was communist and the nationalist / republic.
Okay.
So this is basically how you end up with Taiwan in modern day.
Okay.
So you have the Chinese Civil War happens after World War II,
right?
And then the nationalist government fled to Taiwan.
Yeah, and the Communist Party
took
rises
over
up.
China. Yeah.
Okay.
So he worked as a police officer, like you already said.
Yep.
Yeah.
For the side that didn't win.
Right.
Right. So this film basically portrays him as kind of a wastrel. He doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Until he decides to stand up for his country against the horrible Japan.
Right.
And then he becomes the national hero, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was really fascinating because I was like, what did he actually do? It's like, oh, he's a police officer. Oh, during the war, he supported the wrong side. Oh, there's actually rumors that he was like part of, and this is heavily rumored. There's no way to confirm this.
Yeah.
That he was part of like their, I don't want to call it Secret Service, but like CIA type intelligence agency where he was doing like actual work in the war in World War II.
Gotcha.
For, again, the side that lost the Civil War after World War II.
Right.
So
like during the war, were they still fighting each other, like the Communist Party and the Nationalists, or was it kind of like hey, we need to like be cool for a little bit till this war thing blows over?
So I cannot remember the U.S. general who was in charge of that theater, who was working with both sides, and he has some incredibly colorful comments about both of the leaders.
I'm sure they all age well too.
Oh, very much so. Yes, let me tell you. They were kind of fighting against each other, maybe more like political for power or like decision making versus like outright. Hey,
outright
I have armed
yeah.
soldiers, you have armed soldiers. But then obviously after World War II was resolved, then hey, we broke out into real civil war.
Right.
All right, so we're getting into the weeds here. We're gonna bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back.
And here's a couple more little bits of trivia. So Donnie Yen is a skilled martial artist in various styles, including Wing Chun. And he learned it from Ip Chun, who is the elder son of Ip Man.
Okay.
Who is credited in this film?
Yes.
Credits.
Yeah, and so
cool.
his part of his family, including Ip Chun, did oversee a lot of the production of it. Clearly, like they were totally fine with it being completely embellished or fabricated.
Did your dad ever do this? Sure, why not? So, did he have a cameo in the movie or anything?
I have to
that I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't.
Feels like he should if he
didn't. Maybe he was just one of the people in the crowd or whatever.
Here's a potato in this trying time.
Yeah. So the other thing is while rehearsing one of the fight scenes, Donnie Yen was injured by an axe wielder. It actually sliced near his left eye.
Oh my gosh! So that would have been like the warehouse fight.
Yes,
then? Or the
against the ruffians.
The cotton mill. Fight.
Yeah. And that cotton mill was not an actual cotton mill. They just found an old storage room and they turned it into a 1930s
just a warehouse.
Factory.
What do we need in here? Bunch of cotton. Big circular vats. I don't know.
Things. Put some
Get a rake or two.
To make it fluffy.
Yeah. What? Okay, so for me too, like now that we're past the spoiler wall, like I had forgotten how much it got close to like a little bit of propaganda-ish towards the end. And like when I did look into like his background and stuff, and I was like, oh, so it's just like his name and this. A lot of the big plot points are just kind of like made up. Yeah. It's still a fun movie. It's like
it is,
but it does skew closer to like Gladiator than it does like an actual like
1917 or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm trying to come up with something that's really feels hyper realistic.
Yeah, it's kind of like like you're looking at like it's just like here is just the idea of what his life was, and then we're just gonna have a lot of fun with it.
A lot of fun with it, yeah. But I really enjoy it. I think Donnie Yen does great. I do think it's unfair that like now that I am just so inundated with Jackie Chan content that like I see it when it's a stunt double instead of Donnie Yen in a fight scene. Or there's like 2 or 3 shots where it's like definitely not him.
Yeah.
Like at the end when he falls off after he's been shot, I was like, that don't even look anything like Donnie Yen. And I'm watching this on the Roku channel in a browser window. Like, come on. Like, so there was a few moments where it's like, there was one fight where you can see it's not him for a second when he's getting hit or something. And I was like, oh man, come on, Donnie. But it's like, it's not fair because Jackie Chan is not a normal person. Like,
no, I mean, Jackie Chan's a 1 in a million style.
He really is, yeah.
Director, action star, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I mean, like that, it's very similar to like Tom Cruise for the U.S., where like not everyone's gonna want to try and fly an F-18.
Well, and it's the thing of like someone's gonna get kicked in the face really hard. Let's not let it be Donnie because he's got to film dialogue scenes tomorrow, and we don't need to have like a big bruise on his head. You know?
But I mean, I definitely think that there's some fantastic fight scenes in this. I always. Like, because I've seen, all 3, or really all 4 films, but the first 3 quite a bit. Yeah. And I always kind of get them mixed up of like, okay, this is when this one happens.
This is the film that has this fight versus
I
that.
got this one and one of this fights from number 2. I can't remember which one it was now, but like the whole movie I'm waiting for it, it never happens. And I'm going like, what? Oh, that's the second movie.
The second one, yeah.
This one, I forgot that the dude or the ruffians that come in and challenge all the schools.
I'm going to stop you right there. His official name is Asian Carl Urban.
He does look like Asian Carl Urban.
I saw, like, I was watching that. I was like, boy, this guy looks like Carl Urban. And then I was like, I'm never going to be able to unsee that. Like, even saying Asian is almost pushing it. That could just be Carl Urban. Honestly. Like,
he's got the, like, so I watched The Boys on Amazon, and he makes a lot of the same faces in that show where he's got the eyes are kind of like wild. It's like
the dude looks like Carl.
Yeah.
It's uncanny.
That's awesome.
It is a very uncanny.
Uncanny. So my favorite fight scene, I think it's a 2-way tie in this movie between when he fights the 10 black belts, because like when he breaks that one guy's leg and like he's just going savage.
Them.
But I also just really love
it's very satisfying.
The fight with the very first fight with Carl Urban. I can't think of his character name now. But,
I don't even know the character's name.
When he's in his house and he's like they're knocking over the vase.
Well,
and he's
I'll pay.
It's
Louis Fon is the actor's name.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he does look like Carl Urban. But I really do like that whole bit where they are fighting and he knocks it over. He's like, I'll pay. Like it's like, oh, there's still some honor here.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's that goes to like another point of like there's still humor in this movie.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, also like mom sending the kid out on his little trike to like pedal around and be like, Mommy says if you don't start fighting, all her stuff will be broken or whatever. And it's like, okay. I roll up my sleeves a little.
Yeah.
Take it serious. I love that fight sequence, especially when he pulls the way that he pulls the sword. With like the back kick to pull it over his head.
That's so cool.
Ip Man's response is the feather duster.
Well, and so the thing that I love about that fight is it's such a paramount to how much better Ip Man is compared to this guy, because at this point he has killed this guy multiple times.
Yeah.
Well, he does it a lot in the fight where he doesn't, and I don't think he does it with this guy, but with the first master, he does a lot where it's like hit. Yeah. It's very One Punch Man, actually.
It is, yeah. Well, because he's just basically like, I am so much better than you. You literally have no chance. I've already hurt. But I don't
want
this
to
fight.
Smash your nose in 4 times.
Yeah, because he's pretty benevolent. Like he's not this arrogant kind of.
He's pretty laid back and confident in his own ability. He doesn't have to be like, oh yeah, I sent this dude to the hospital to feel better about himself.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like there's an alternate reality version of this movie where he is arrogant.
Where he's just destroying people.
And they play it.
The one?
Yeah, and they play it straight. They don't have the humor worked in, because that is something that does happen when like the twist happens and like the Japanese invade.
Oh,
and it goes from like tonally like a kind of a comedy, movie to like, oh, now we're like
this is really serious.
dour. Like the color's gone.
The
There's no
clouds rolled
laughing.
in and they're permanently there.
Yeah, and it
It's always
is
raining.
a bit of a tonal shift that happens right there.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like it still works for me.
Well, the fight, I think the fight with the 10 black belts works so well because we've seen, even when this other dude is totally disrespectful, we've seen Ip Man have restraint and still play that. And then in that fight, he's just brutalizing them.
Man,
just destroying them.
I think my favorite part about that fight is because, he has like the really fast punches on people's faces. And like there's this poor black belt.
Dude on the ground.
He's
Yeah, he takes him all the way down. Yeah, and the guy's like, "Just let me fall." He's like,
well, that's one of those things where if that was done in anime, like every punch would actually hit him on the ground and bounce him back up. So
yeah,
just like a little like Wobba Fett just going.
It could be speed bags.
Yeah, exactly.
That fight is honestly incredible, though.
Yeah,
the blocking on it's really, really good. The choreography is
you got
phenomenal.
Really good kind of like contrasty lighting going in that. It's still very sepia, but you have like kind of almost shafts of light.
It is. Yeah.
Well, and you have obviously the heavy emotional stakes of like the second that obviously his friend is killed, he's like, oh, I'm just going to destroy everyone.
Well,
and you as the viewer know this too.
The cool thing too is that you get those scenes early where he's training with that other master and he's just housing this guy and like doing it in the most polite. You want to eat with us real quick? And he's like, then they start fighting, and then the other kid exposes him. They have like this words at the restaurant, and like Ip Man's kind of like, I mean. The guy's like all blustering. I'm like, what are you gonna do? Get loose in the restaurant in front of everybody?
You're
like
blustering? I'm gonna just drop you in front of everyone?
Yeah.
But you see the evolution of their friendship, their
relationship.
Yeah, I don't want to say friendship necessarily, but so you have that like moment, and then it becomes like all of Foshan have to stand together because of the Japanese occupation. And he sees the guy out there and he gets like, shot and killed, and it's like now it's game on. And you have those through points of like, it's not just some random dude. Yeah. It's the guy from earlier that you remember when the comedy part of the movie was happening. So
this was fun and lighthearted.
Yeah, it makes you mad
Silly
too.
Shenanigans.
And you're like, oh, he's gonna go off. Like the first time I saw this movie, I was like, he's about to take it out. I thought he was gonna go like a few people, and he's like, 10. Give me 10 men. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, it is a very incredible, poignant part plot-wise too. Whenever he, like they give him the 10 bags of rice and he doesn't even ignore it. He walks out and he takes the bloody bag.
Well, he takes the blood rice and he gives it to the poor grieving widow.
I always think of the widow going like,
a useful bag of
she's
rice.
Like, so wait, what? You got the other one too? This is symbolic, cool. But you got the other 2 rice, right?
I need to feed these kids who don't have a father.
Yeah, and he's like, no, it was too symbolic to take the. She's like, well, but someone went back and got the 10 bags. You're okay. You close the door. He walked out. I don't think he. You want blood rice? Like I don't know.
It's already kind of soggy in here. Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh.
The one part about this movie that does, it felt a little contrived as just having the ruffians come back, and just kind of like bully the.
So I like it just because in the sense of they're in a position where everyone's being bullied by the Japanese, and they're still trying to find ways to punch down. There's punching down on the people who are already suffering. Yeah, which again, from the propaganda aspect of, hey, we as Chinese should all band together,
and then they're all training together, and
which I love the whole training montage of the mill workers. Is one great where they're like doing practicing it. Yeah. And also just the mill fight as a whole.
It's good.
I think that's my favorite fight just because it's a different setting. Right? It's very different from just like a dojo, essentially.
It is.
And you have kind of the, classic, which you get a lot in Western cinema of the plucky group banding together, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then through the midst of these people fighting for themselves, Donnie Yen just wades through, just clocking ruffians until he gets up to the front. And then you also get to see like the long pole work.
Yeah, which is really nice.
good.
Very good, yeah. I also like how that fight kicks off, where it's like the mill worker's son is like, not today, and he does the Wing Chun pose and like, and then, bow, and he smacks him back, and it's like things have changed. You know?
Also, the kid does kind of the Jackie Chan move afterwards. He like shakes his hands. He's like, oh, that hurts.
Yeah, he's like, God, yeah. Because clearly they have not been sparring. They've just been doing the shapes, you know.
But even that amount of knowledge of how to defend yourself makes such a big difference, obviously.
Well, especially when someone doesn't expect it. When they're like, oh yeah, it's just a little wussy boy putting his hands up again, and then pow, you know, out of nowhere.
I think too, like most everybody in this movie does a really good job. Like, you know, I don't think there was anybody that stood out as like, oh, that guy was a terrible actor or actress.
No.
I do think and this is an assumption, but correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm pretty sure the Japanese soldiers, the main ones, the general, they were played by Chinese actors.
No,
correct?
they're Japanese.
They were Japanese?
So General Miura, Hiroyuki Ikiuchi, he's a pretty big actor in Japan.
I have absolutely seen him in something, and I can't figure out what it was, and it's bothering
my assumption just came from like, it felt like a propaganda piece for
Japanese people would be like, I don't want to participate.
I don't know, y'all gonna want to be in this? Yeah.
So Colonel Sato is also Japanese.
Okay, good.
Tenma Shibuya is his actor.
Okay.
And but yeah, I thought they did really good. I did like Hiroyuki's.
They're great villains.
Yeah, they are very good villains because you have kind of like the unhinged one that just really wants to just murder people, and then you have the one that also wants to murder people, but he wants to.
He's at least a little more dignified.
He at least has a code of honor, or like
he has some level of like check marks that he has to meet before he turns into a murder machine.
I do think that the last fight.
It's important to have that checklist.
You gotta have that checklist.
If you don't have that
before
checklist, you can't travel.
You can't go full murder machine just out of the gate. Yeah.
Look, you have to have values, and if those values are met, then it's game on.
I think the last fight
AI is taking notes right now.
It is. Murder machine activate. Checklist complete. The last fight with Murder Machine and Ip Man
Miura.
I think it could be a little better. It's a good fight.
It's kind of anticlimactic.
It could be a little bit more after the 10 black belt and then also the mill fight. And even the early fight with Asian Carl Urban, the fight it's not quite up to the same level. It's got more drama.
It does.
It's got more of
it has the emotional stakes.
It starts really well too. Mm-hmm. Like it starts off and you're like, okay, like in my head I'm like, we finally get a fight where it's like Ip Man's gonna get hurt. Like this is gonna be toe to toe.
Oh no, this is still
and
just
then very quickly
over.
It's like, oh, okay. And then it's almost over too soon where it's like, I would have much preferred, that's my big complaint with the finale would be that fight.
He needs a little bit more.
Goes longer, like one of the fights in the end of the Creed movies, you know, goes longer and is like more of a who's going to win.
I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know if I don't think you have rounds in this kind of, just, can you get up or not?
No.
I always get this final fight conflated with some of the fights from Jet Li's Fearless.
Yes, I do too.
Yeah,
because the one that's on top of the tower.
Yeah. It came out roughly I think it was 2006. This is 08. And it's kind of a similar concept at the end, although it's an earlier era.
Yeah.
So I always get them a little crossed up. So whenever I hit this fight, I'm always like, oh yeah, it's going to happen. Story's going to resolve itself.
Right.
Okay. It's okay.
It does wrap up really, really fast.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I do laugh about is the little blurb that they have at the end of they're like, and the Japanese lost to unconditional surrender. And I was like,
I think it says to the Chinese.
To the Chinese. I'm like, not to the Chinese.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know that that's exactly how that went down.
The war kind of ended. You guys didn't have anyone that could fight these guys. The war just ended.
Yeah.
Well, that don't trivialize it that much.
No.
The Chinese fought them quite a bit.
They did.
But
they didn't have like a concerted army.
They did drop A-bombs on Japan's mainland.
And like Japan, when they surrendered, I don't know, did they sign something with China and said, we surrendered to you too? Or are they just like, we're going to leave because the Americans told us we had to? Like, what was
That I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think there were some weird concessions too, where some of the surrendered land, like in Manchuria, was given to the Russians. Or the Soviets.
Yes, there was some stuff with the Russians.
There was some weird stuff with that
with
as well.
Stalin.
Yeah. But I don't know how much. I feel like if China had a decent say in the surrender, that wouldn't have happened. They would be like, "Hey, that was ours.
Right?
Give it to him. Why are you giving it to him?"
But so there was like I did like every time I see that I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
But that is kind of where it does turn into a little bit of a propaganda thing. And, that's fine. Like, the movie
it's a minor concession as long as you know that going in. Like,
well, and they also talk about him going to Hong Kong. Yeah. Well, he went to Hong Kong because he supported the wrong side of the war. And this was a safe haven. So in real life, he went to Hong Kong. His wife and like one of his daughters didn't like their papers had been taken from them. They were not able to go to Hong Kong. He never saw his wife again.
Oh wow. Yeah,
so like there's some crazy stuff.
Well, and one of the other thing is too is that his eldest son in this movie, he's like 4 or 5. In real life, he was like 12 or 15, somewhere around there. So he's much older, and I think they already had a daughter at this point.
He had like 4 or 5 kids. Or something like that.
And
pretty big family.
Yeah, like, and there's stuff that happens later on in other movies that like him and his wife have been separated in real life for a long time, before like any of this other stuff kind of happened or whatever.
Yeah.
So the movies are just
there's a lot of fiction.
Yeah.
We did open this episode with 3 real things did happen that are shown in the movie, and that's everything else. That's all you really need to know.
Yeah.
But without getting again back into the weeds on that, I think the music in this was great.
The music's honestly pretty phenomenal.
It's quite good. I didn't remember, and it may just be that on past watchings I wasn't keyed up to pay attention to it. Yeah. I was like, man, this music is good.
It is really, really good.
The soundtrack's great. Like the theme song especially is really good. And then there's a couple of moments, a couple of the fights that like when it's going, like the drums are going, and you're like
kind of like ramping up.
Yeah.
That's really good. And I really do. I know I've seen a couple people whenever they've seen this movie, they're like, wow, the wife just doesn't really do anything. I'm like, well, because she's not really supposed to. Like, she's supposed to be the one that
traditional,
one, it's very traditional marriage, but then also she's supposed to be essentially like the reason why he's not supposed to fight. And then the reason why he is supposed to
be
fight.
The brakes on it. Yeah. Which, I mean, I love her character. Again, it's the eyes thing where you don't necessarily always say something, but like when she like turns her head and like gives him the look, it's like, I know that. I know that's
she's very expressive.
Yeah, without having to like say anything.
Yeah. No, she did great.
Well, also I love the turn again with Carl Urban, where she starts out being like, "Hey, you're not gonna fight," and he gets super insulting, and then she's just like, "Don't break my things," and leaves the room.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, it's on. Let's go.
It's game. That too, obviously, it's one of those things where like it's telegraphing the fact that Ip Man's gonna win this fight. She knows.
Oh, she knows.
Yeah. But it still makes it really enjoyable to watch. Like at no point are you like, well, it's spoiled. I know who's gonna win. The movie's named Ip Man. He's gonna win. But yeah, when she does that, when she goes, just don't break my stuff, and like walks off, like
let's go.
Here we go.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got the okay to do your hobby,
do your thing.
Yeah.
In this room filled with breakable things,
objects, just so many dainty objects, waiting to be broken. So I got to say, I also really liked, and I'm going to struggle with the character's name. I can't remember it.
Yeah.
So he's the police captain who becomes the interpreter.
He's been in other movies too.
He's been in a lot of stuff too. Yeah. But they did a really nuanced showing with him of like where he's kind of trying to walk the line in between, and people are accusing him of being a traitor.
His character arc's great because he does start off as like this like bumbling cop. Then he's like, what, a traitor? And then at the end you're like, this guy's the real hero of the movie.
Well, he also, I mean, like they show him when Ip Man like flees and like he's housing with his family. Well, he's like caring for like an aged mother, a sister who's like missing half her leg, like all this. Like they really like lay it on you.
Yeah, they really hammer down that like this guy is not a bad guy.
In a tough spot.
He's doing whatever he can to make sure that his family and his loved ones are taken care of.
Man, he gets his kicked in.
He really
his name
does.
is just Lee in the
His
character is just Lee. But
yeah, he really does get the snot beat out of him quite a bit.
A lot.
Oh yeah. But yeah, he probably does have the best character arc of everybody because you get to see like
you
three
get to
eras
see
of
the when you get to see the kind of the behind the scenes of why he's doing stuff, it's like, oh, okay, well, this is less. And then when we go back to the final fight and people in the crowd are telling him he's a traitor and like, I hope the Japanese kill him.
Now you're like, you shut up. You don't know the full story.
You don't know how this works, man. He's caring for his grandma.
He's got his G-mama. Like, everybody's sick in his house for some reason.
Oh man! All right, so it sounds like we're kind of wrapping up.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think this is a pretty fantastic movie.
Yeah,
definitely worth the watch if you are into martial arts films and you haven't seen it.
If you, especially if you like old school martial arts films, right?
Yep.
This has fantastic fights. It has way more story.
Yeah.
It's much better acted.
Yeah.
And the production values are much higher.
Yeah.
So it's like a win-win across the board.
Just as a note, don't watch the English dub. It's terrible.
I've never even known there was a dub.
There was one.
One of the, I think, places I saw where it was streaming, I clicked on it just out of curiosity. Maybe it was Plex.
Plex only has the English
one
dub.
of them only has the dub,
rough.
and it's like terrible.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Just watch it with subtitles. That's the best way to do it. You get to hear Donnie Yen's silky sweet voice.
Silky smooth toe.
But yeah, so that sounds like kind of what we're doing. But before we go, we have to talk about Patreon, like we always do.
For $1, count it, $1, you get access to all of our bonus episodes. And these bonus episodes are not like our normal format. These are like, we get out there, we get wild. We do like, which U.S. presidents can we fight?
Or, let's have ChatGPT give us some movie names, and we're going to make a whole movie out of it.
Yeah, we pick the plot and the cast.
Totally ridiculous.
We've got a chip tier list. We've got soda tier list.
Regrets, lots of regrets.
We were so sick after both of those. We did this for you. For $1, you can listen to us, lose our mind over these chips.
We also have commentaries where you can listen along as we Mystery Science Theater 3000 movies that you can sync up with your own watching at home. It's like putting us on the sofa there with you.
Yeah, and we also do Patreon picks polls every now and then where you can pick what we're going to review next. Patrons get early access to that, obviously, but it does make it on the main feed. So you can influence the future of the podcast. And also, all of this stuff, try before you buy. We have a preview of our commentaries in the main feed. If you scroll back, we did Phantom Menace.
Yes.
We also have Patreon preview. So any of our bonus episodes, you can
15
listen
minutes,
to like the first 15 minutes, get a feel for like the craziness. If it feels like what you like, throw us $1. We love making this content.
And if Patreon isn't your thing, that's totally okay. You can also support the show by tossing us a share, giving us a like whenever we post stuff, new episodes.
Put a review wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. Leave us a review.
It would be greatly appreciated. Helps us, kind of get up in there in the search engines.
Fight that algorithm.
Yeah.
Fight the AI.
Algorithm. He's fighting us every day.
This is the resistance. All right, so that does sound like all the time we have this week. So until next time, I'm Andrew.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Steven.
And every spoiler was intended.